So it is Monday, which means we are back with some box office breakdowns. Last week, it was very slow because of the Labor Day weekend. But this week, we got a big new movie opening, Beetlejuice, and it did way better than it had any right to. The expectations were for anywhere between 60 and 80 million dollars, and anywhere within that range would have been phenomenal for this movie, but it surpassed them well above all that. It actually ended up with $110 million, which makes it the third biggest opening of the year behind Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. It's also the second biggest September debut behind It Chapter 1 back in 2017. And it's Tim Burton's second most highest grossing film for the opening weekend, the first being Alice in Wonderland, which opened a smidge higher, and we're still waiting on like actual total, so this is kind of based on the estimates, which are fairly accurate, but still 110 million, that is really good for this movie and for this brand. And like I've been saying, nostalgia sells. People love what they love, and now that going to the movies requires a little bit more effort and more money, they want to be sure that what they're seeing is worth it. And what better way than something they are familiar with? So yes, I would definitely not be surprised if a third Beetlejuice is announced any day now, especially with these numbers. And I think that this says a couple of things. One, just how much this brand has grown, but also how people are kind of in desperate need for some holiday themed movies. We've kind of been recycling a lot of the same ones over the last decades, and it's exciting to see this movie do well. Hocus Pocus 2 did well when it released on Disney Plus a couple years ago, and so we are slowly getting them. Will this lead to new ones? I don't know. I hope so, because I think despite its many issues story-wise, I think that the theming of this movie is very fall, very Halloween, very fun. And I think that helped it. It really felt like a party. And I would not be surprised if by Halloween week, this film is released on streaming and it just like goes bonkers. It's already in the top 10 with just pre-orders. So I can only imagine how well it's going to do once it hits streaming. So yes, Beetlejuice actually accounted for 73% of all of ticket sales this past weekend, which just goes to show you how many people went to go see this movie, and it has the rest of the month to itself. Now the question is, how high can this movie get? Can it get to $1 billion? I would say probably not, considering its overseas numbers are kind of weak, and you need really strong overseas numbers to hit $1 billion. But I do think it's going to go really, really far, which is exciting. Some key things from the audience. Most of the audiences seem to actually enjoy this movie. It actually got scores very close to what the 1988 movie did. It did a scooch better, so it shows you that, audiences still generally feel the same way about it. And while its cinema score is a little bit lower for this type of movie, the fact that it has the whole month to itself, I don't think it's going to affect its legs as much, especially because people are just going to go see it for the vibe, and I really think that that's kind of the best way to do it. But yes, this film also did skew a little female, which is interesting. It makes sense when you take into consideration that this movie really does focus on the 3 generation of Deet's women, and so that's another interesting, and also the fact that it's holiday theme probably has something to do with it. The diversity breakdowns, the demo breakdowns of this movie were actually fairly strong. 45% were Caucasian, 34% were Hispanic, 11% Black, and 10% Asian other. And so I really do think you're seeing the Jenna Ortega effect, particularly with her, appealing to the Latino demographic and just the younger demographic as well, because 18 to 34%, that accounted for almost half of the movie's opening weekend audience. So definitely can tell that not only Winona Ryder, because of her Stranger Things role, has really gained a new myriad of fans who are younger, but Jenna Ortega definitely is a big draw, and this opening just kind of cements her as the next big thing, and I really am excited to see what her agents are able to get her from this. She has Wednesday season 2 coming up, which is going to blow up even more than the first season did, and I am very excited because I think she is a movie star and she deserves to be so I'm very excited to see what this leads to her career. I also think This is great news for Michael Keaton, for Catherine O'Hara, for everyone involved in this movie, behind and in front of the camera. So you can see a lot of deals that are going to be coming up because of this big opening weekend. So interestingly enough, Beetlejuice was not the only movie to open this weekend. Brandy and A24 had a horror movie called The Front Room, which opened, and it didn't do so well. It opened at number 10, very low, very rare misfire for A24, especially when it comes to horror movies. That tends to be their bread and butter, and this one just did not connect with audiences, with critics. And while I do hope to see a Brandy comeback because I think she deserves it, it just won't be this film. In number 2 was Deadpool and Wolverine, and this is after being in release for over 7 weekends. That is amazing. I think this film has truly cemented itself as a huge box office hit, second biggest of the year, and definitely will be entering the top 20 any day now, which is very exciting for this movie, but also just kind of shows you the staying power that this brand's Deadpool, that Ryan Reynolds have cultivated. And so it'll be exciting to see how this goes forward and what his role in the MCU will be, because these numbers are pretty good. In number 3, we have Reagan, which is a biopic starring Dennis Quaid, released by this relatively new studio, which is interesting to see how different films tailored to different demographics do, and this one very much found its niche audience, and I think that they're going to see this movie and supporting it, which is good. I think it's important to diversify film, and while I may not be the target audience for this movie, clearly it's found one. Alien is at number 4, and it is this close from reaching the century mark domestically. Worldwide, it's grossed around $350 million, making it, I think, the second most successful Alien movie, right behind Prometheus. And while I don't think it's going to get to Prometheus box office-wise, I think that this is a very good number. And were it released by any other studio, I think this movie would have been a clear success, but the fact that it's released by Disney and they tend to focus on really, really big budget, big return movies, it does make me worry a little bit about the future of the Alien franchise. They have a TV show coming up, but I really hope that it doesn't become a streaming series, a streaming franchise, because I think that there's so much potential in film, especially with Alien Romulus being so good. They're clearly being a way forward with these characters, with this story. So we'll have to wait to see on that one. Maybe they'll sell the IP. Maybe they'll decide that they're going back to mid-ish, high-budget movies. Who knows? And rounding up the top 5 is It Ends With Us, which is a very strange case of a movie doing really good at the box office, yet I do think that this film is hurting everyone involved just because there's so much drama that's still lingering and that's kind of bringing this film down. Because otherwise, without this drama, this film would have been a slam dunk, a sequel would have been announced, if not already started production. Maybe that's a little bit exaggerating, but there would have been a sequel announcement for sure. And the fact that we haven't gotten one just shows you how damaging all of the drama was for this potential franchise. So that was this weekend's box office. Were there any surprises? Did you catch the party that was Beetlejuice? If so, I would love to hear it. Make sure to follow and like for more movie-related content.